All right, let's go ahead and wrap up, close our laptops, and we'll start in just a few seconds. Let me post this link. All right, let's see. Right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to week 3. And you guys are persistent. I think it's still 100% class going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best.
Yeah.
Counts.
Actually, we have a couple of people who have joined our class. John, and then Ches. Also, he's not here, but he's going to be in our class starting today. Hopefully, I think so. That's what I got the confirmation. Let's see.
You guys switch from the other one?
Yeah. You guys see me on Saturday,
Oh, yeah.
All right. So today's week, this week is going to be everybody's favorite topic, JavaScript.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I hope that's the same sentiment after the weekends. Yeah. Yeah. So JavaScript is my favorite language to whine about. You will see me whining about JavaScript a lot. It's just like the wild west of languages. I will see why I say that. I'm going to install that biasness in everybody over here if you go out. But here's the part about JavaScript. How important JavaScript is. Let me skip this so that. So here's the situation. I want you guys to realize the gravity of the situation. If you guys don't understand JavaScript this week, right? You guys won't understand jQuery. Okay? If you don't understand jQuery, you're not going to understand what it means to use third-party JavaScript libraries. Okay? If you don't understand JavaScript, jQuery, you won't be able to understand how do you make AJAX and API calls. Right? That's really important. Okay? If you don't understand JavaScript, jQuery, and all this part, you won't be able to understand Node.js. Okay? Node.js, if you don't get a hang of Node.js, kind of comes down to databases. Not the exact database, but how do you create APIs, and how do you access these databases from your JavaScript code? Okay? And then you cannot understand Express, which is a backend server creation Node.js library. What else do we have? I think there's one more. Yeah. And then in the end, you'll not understand what React.js is doing. So basically what I have outlined for you guys is the remaining 22 weeks of this course. Okay, that is how important JavaScript is. Okay, the first 2 weeks, take off your hat of HTML, CSS. It has absolutely nothing to do with HTML, CSS. It's totally different syntax, totally new. And it is, if you have never had an experience with any programming language, this is probably going to be the first, and this is how other modern languages are, kind of similar. But this is basically, the rest of this program is all based on JavaScript. There's no getting around it. When it comes to a practical situation, I would easily say 75% of the time you would be writing JavaScript code, debugging JavaScript code, or something to do with JavaScript versus HTML and CSS. Okay, that is the reality. Okay, and JavaScript is the language of the web. It is here to stay. However badly written it is, however we can whine about it, uh, but it is better to accept it and move on. That's how I have made peace with it. So, but I still reserve the right to whine about it. That's what I do. Yes.
What happened like was it like 7 years ago and everyone was like, JavaScript, everybody was making their sites and too much Java and they were like, oh too much Java, too much Java. And it seemed like they just made a bunch more languages. Because now there's like all these other ones.
Again, so as I said, if you see the relationship, um, remember I said there are only three languages that your web browser understands: HTML, CSS, JavaScript. There is absolutely no other programming language that your browser will understand. All these are just libraries that are based off JavaScript. What you can do in this, what you can do in this, what you can do in this, you can do the same thing in JS. It will just take more time, more understanding, more complicated code. But these things are that somebody has gone and done it for us, right? There is absolutely no other language that you can run on your browser other than JavaScript. These help us because they have shells and everything. They make JavaScript look nice, but beneath it, it's the same ugly JavaScript code that is running. And that will be true, and that's how it's been since 1995. So no other language has come and replaced it. So, so that's how important this is. Now when we come to our lessons and homework, I know you guys are working on the homework, and I said, spend 55% of the time on lectures and then the remaining 45 on homework and all that stuff. 55 on the activities and everything, and 45% of the homework. For JavaScript, especially for the initial weeks, I would highly recommend you bump it up to 75. Kind of make your... Well, the good thing about this is that you guys got a break on Tuesday. Hopefully, everybody took the advantage and was working on their homework. So it's like, kind of coming closer to an end. Because you need to spend a lot more time on this part now. And you understand how important it is. You miss over here, everything is going to fall. You won't understand what's going on by the time you get here. Well, you won't understand by the time even if you get here, you will be lost by that time. Okay, so that's how important it is, right? This is how, there are a lot of moving pieces in JavaScript, lot of moving pieces, right? I'm going to break it down and we'll study chunks of it, right? And then the questions that I get is people are like, well, what's the use? I don't understand. Why would I do that? Yes, at the end of the lecture or the end of the week, you will see how these come together. But if I start showing you the whole page and the whole code, it'll be hard to understand. So you have to break it down and then and see how they all connect. Okay, each one of them is really important. Same my strategy. Please take notes. Don't be on your computers right now. Just take notes. Again, these are recorded. You can go back and see. Take notes, write it down, go back and read what you did, and then you can verify and then write it better. But take notes, especially when it comes to JavaScript, right? Again, coding part will come as long as you understand all the concepts, right? Understanding these concepts is very, very, very important in JavaScript. Organization. This is like near and dear to my heart. Especially when students start, what I've noticed is people are lost. They don't know where the files are. I don't know. I posted my activity on this folder. You don't have to have a squeaky clean OCD desktop like mine, but kind of try to make sure that arrange. You exactly know what's going on. For example, if I was taking this course, what would I do? I would start with a main folder called Bootcamp. And then I might add a GitLab folder, and this folder will only have my pulls from my GitLab thing, right? Remember those? And then I can create different folders. For example, week 1, week 2, and so on. Within this, I can do class, activities, homework, something like this. Okay, have an organization, whatever makes sense to you. This makes sense to me, so I would follow this. But if it doesn't, come with an organization scheme that works with you. And it's really, really important to get organized early on versus, when you're deep into coding, JavaScript, and all that stuff, it'll be one less thing to worry about. Okay? I've already covered these exercises that we do. Please go back and redo. I'll talk about a little bit about Saturday's class, but there's no time to relax or relax right now. If you understand this, what we are going to cover this whole week is the foundation of JavaScript. This is the basic JavaScript, and by basic, I do not mean that it is easy. By basic, I mean this is the foundation. If you don't get the foundation of JavaScript, you're not going to get all these concepts, even advanced JavaScript concepts, right? Because they all build on top of that. Okay, so best practices: go back, redo all the exercises that I do today, work on it. When you come on Saturday, you are absolutely kind of clear that what's going on before the Saturday class begins. Okay, it's going to feel fast. It is because learning JavaScript itself is it has a learning curve, right? And given that it's a very fast-paced class, it kind of adds on to it. Okay. Any questions before we begin? Okay, so let's do one thing. Nick is going to slack you out. Look at this is JavaScript code. I just want you guys work with a partner, look at it, discuss it for literally just like 5 minutes. That's it. I'm going to start a timer. Look at it for 5 minutes and we'll come back. This is a JavaScript code. When the activity is over, we are not going to discuss right away. We will come back to it at the end of the class. So I just want you to take a look at it. How does the JavaScript code looks like? So it's a zip file. Yeah, there it is.
Let's dissect the code. What's one of them?
All right, let's get back to it. We'll come back towards the end and we'll discuss. We are going to cover each one of them as a topic, and then we'll see in the end what it all means. All right. Okay. Before I start with JavaScript, this is something that I like to include, especially Joffrey was talking, so I know how important this slide is. Um, People confuse JavaScript with Java, right? They both are as same as you're comparing these two. So well, yeah, probably same. Or you're like, well, Gandalf, Dumbledore, same thing. It's fine. Or if you didn't get any of these geeky examples, comparing Mark Wahlberg, well, yeah, it's the same guy. That's what JavaScript and Java is. And as of today, you are forgiven if you confuse it. But after today, if somebody confuses Java with JavaScript, I'll make sure you don't get that programming certificate. All right? JavaScript has absolutely no relationship with Java. All right? Back in 1995, there was a marketing plot, and they were trying to. You remember the browser wars? Somebody JavaScript was coming. Somebody has to come up with a language that will rule the web world. They came up with a language. They called it LiveScript, but that wasn't getting traction, so they renamed it. Said, "Hey, Java is popular. Just make it JavaScript," and that's how the name kind of stuck with it. It was just a mark. It has absolutely no relationship with Java. It's funny. I get recruiters. They're like, if I'm more like a backend programmer or work with Java a lot. And they're like, well, there's a JavaScript requirement. I'm like, no, I'm looking for a Java job. Well, yeah, it's the same thing. They are recruiters, so I'm like, okay, that's fine. But you guys, after this, please do not. They have Java is a more backend language that runs on your servers and all that stuff. It's a more robust language. It's a more sophisticated, as like I like to say, versus JavaScript. And JavaScript is very lightweight, and it has to be because it's going to run on your browser and everybody's laptop and every machine. It has to be lightweight. It has to ignore a few things to make it lightweight. And that's what JavaScript is, right? So as I already said, JavaScript is the third fundamental language, and you cannot create web pages by not having any JavaScript on it. Even if your portfolio page, right, you have a contact page, you have a button over there, it doesn't do anything. If you want the button to work, you need JavaScript, right? You need to write some code that does some action. All right, JavaScript is the one that allows us action, interactivity in our web pages, and that's why it is so important. All right. Again, as I said, when you're working, 75% of the time you will be debugging, you'll be writing new code. It will all be in JavaScript. HTML, CSS, yeah, most of the time you'll be working on JavaScript, especially if you're working on React. Their syntax and everything is kind of is developed on top of JavaScript. Okay. As I said, JavaScript was created in a rush. I think it was like in 11 days. Somebody came up with JavaScript and they released it. Again, this was the era where who came to the market first and they were the winners. They had to create it in like 11 days, and that's why it's kind of weird. It has like strange things. Seems like the wild, wild west of languages, right? There, it allows so many things that you cannot even think about doing in other languages. But what? Why? But that's JavaScript. Okay. All right. So that was the writing part. Now we're going to start with the real JavaScript. The first thing is the topic is variables. What are variables? Okay. Now think about a box. Let's suppose you are moving, right? You're moving to a different location and you need packing boxes, right? What's the first step you do? You get a box, right? Um, get a box, okay? And next thing you're like, okay, I'm going to put something in this box, so let me go ahead and label that box. Right? Let's suppose I'm going to put a book. The assumption over here is our box is small enough that only one item can fit in it. Right? That's the assumption. So in this box, I'm going to put a book and I'm going to label it first. Right? I'm going to say, oh, this is my box. I'm going to label it. And then I'm going to put a book inside it. Okay? Put something. Let's take another example. Again, the same moving example. Now you want to put a lamp. What's the first thing you do? You get a box, right? Label that box, say lamp, and then you put the lamp in it. Right? Pretty simple. Okay. This is now I'm going to translate this into JavaScript variables. What it means, right? So JavaScript variable is exactly this thing. It's something that you put something in. Okay, to start with. So as the first step, my first step was get a box, like obtain a box, right? If I want to obtain a place to put something, I will say var. Var stands for variable, but this is the keyword. This is the JavaScript keyword for creating or obtaining a variable. Okay. The next part is you label it. So you name the variable. Let's suppose I'm going to name this, I'm going to call it name. All right, that's my label. So I've created a variable and I've labeled it name. Okay. The last thing is I'm going to put something in it. Okay. So I created a box, I named it name, and I put Tony Stark in it because that's what it goes. I can put one item in it. So I said, well, this variable is going to have this value, so I'm going to store that value in it, right? Same as these three steps. Get a box, label it, and then put something in it. Okay? And then when you're done with it, when you end a statement, you end it with a semicolon. All right? Now, semicolon is not as strict. JavaScript is not as strict. At times, you will see if you skip a semicolon, it will still work. But try to get into the good habit of, putting semicolons. If you're learning some other language, you will see that they are very strict on the syntax. So if you miss something, it won't work. But JavaScript is still forgiving. But I try to get into the habit of kind of ending my statement with a semicolon. Okay, that's how the syntax is. Okay. All right. Now, before I go ahead, any questions on this? What questions do you have? Okay. So now I'm going to get into technical. I'm going to change into the technical lingo. How do we talk about it, right? We are not going to say, hey, create a box and then label it and put Tony Stark or any value inside it, right? So when we get into the programming lingo, I'm going to say, declare a variable. Okay, declare a variable. And then assign some value to it. Okay, so this is my declaration part, and this is my assignment part. I'm assigning this value. Okay. Now, if I'm working with you, you guys are asking me some question, I'm showing you some code, and I say, hey, declare a variable name and assign the value Tony Stark in it. This is what you're going to understand. That you're going to say, okay, I'm going to create a variable. The variable is going to be called name, and I'm going to assign this value. Please note the double quotes over here. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
You don't have to tell it what type of variable.
You do not. Good question. I'm going to come to that. But to your short answer, no, you don't have to tell. Okay? Now, Matt is asking, you don't have to tell what type of this variable is. Seems like he has experience with some other programming language, and that's the number one confusing part when somebody comes to it, right? So what it means is that each of these has a type. And technical term is called data type. Okay, that's the next lingo, data type. What data type means is literally what is the type of the data? What is the type of this data? Okay, this is my variable and this is the data that I'm putting into it, right? I had to put something, right? In my book example, I was putting an object like a physical book, right? In my variable, I call this data. This is my data that I'm putting into a variable, okay? Now coming back to this. This means what type of data is this? Okay. From basic JavaScript, there are 3 basic types of data. Okay. The one that you see on the screen is called string. String is any character that you see on your keyboard, right? Alphanumeric, you can put anything. The only caveat to string is that it has to be in quotes, in double quotes. Double quotes or single, both will work. But good point, please be consistent. I don't want to see a code that is using single quote in one string and using double quotes on the same page. Stick to one, pick one. Double quotes, it's fine. Single, there's no defined standard. When you're working with somebody, when you're working at a company, you see their code. If everybody's using single quote, you switch to single quote. If everybody's using double quote, switch to double quote. From JavaScript perspective, it doesn't matter. There should be a double or a single quote. It will say this is a data type of string. Okay, that's what string is. Now again, going to my technical lingo, I'm going to say create a variable called name with a data type of string, and then you guys will be, okay, this is going to be a string, and then assign Tony Stark to it. Okay, one more time. Declare a variable called name. The data type would be a string. So at this point, you're going to be like, okay, equal to, and you're going to start with double quotes. I haven't told you what the data is yet, but as soon as I say string, you guys should be like, okay, whatever I'm going to do after equal to, I'm going to put it in double quotes or single quotes. And then assign the values Tony Stark to it. Okay? All right, any questions on this? Yes?
So the string is the data type.
String is the data type, correct.
Okay, so it's the equal things.
Yes, right. And equal to, what did I say is? This is called assignment. When I say declare a variable called name and assign the data type string, or assign Tony Stark, which has a data type of string. So this means you're going to use a single equal to. You're going to say single equal to, and then like this. That is a technical lingo. Okay? Yes, George. So there's no difference between double or a single quote. Both works for JavaScript. I could totally do this with a single quote, and this will also work. The only thing I was saying is be consistent. In your code, if you start using double quotes, just use double quotes. If you start using single quote, please just use single. Don't like mix and match. Yeah. Okay? Now this was one data type. The second one is number. All right? Now if I say declare a variable called age and the value for and assign 40 to it. The data type for this variable is going to be a number. No quotes. Number is without quotes. If you put a number without quotes, JavaScript is smart enough to recognize that it has to treat that as a number. Right? You see the pattern? I'm not actually specifying if this is a number or not. Right? I'm not putting anything. I'm not hard. In other languages, you have to actually specify what this variable is. But JavaScript is an interpretive language. It interprets. As you type this in, when you run the code, JavaScript is going to interpret and is going to try to figure out what the data type of this is. It's kind of weird. Okay? It's going to look at this. It will see, oh, double quotes. This is going to be a string. Oh, no quotes. It's a number. This is the data type of a number. Okay? You will never see somebody mentioning as a not writing like the word number anywhere. JavaScript just interprets. It kind of guesses. That's all. JavaScript kind of guesses what you're trying to do. Okay?
So if your variable is a number, let's tell it it's a number.
What was that?
If your variable is a number, or if your string is a number, I mean, like
yeah,
the quotes will tell it that not
right,
to consider it
right.
a number.
So yeah, exactly. Now what if I did this? What do you think the data type is now? It's a string. JavaScript doesn't know. As soon as it sees it, it's going to interpret this as a string. All right. Please note that I said data type as a number. In some other programming languages, you will hear the word integer. I specifically didn't say integer because the number over here can be 40.1, 40.1, 2, 3. You see this decimal point? You can add a decimal point. And that's why it's called a number. This thing can take decimal points and after that. All right? So an integer is a whole number. That's why I didn't call it an integer. Otherwise, it will be. In other languages, they have a different type. They have a data type called integer, and then they have a data type called float or double. Float and double kind of represent the decimal point. Okay? But in JavaScript, everything is fair game. They just call it a number, and you can assign decimal places or not. It works. Okay? Questions? Yes.
The indenture you can't assign.
What was that?
The indenture, you said it was different.
The what?
You can't have it. The
The integer? Yeah, but that's in other programming language. JavaScript doesn't mind because JavaScript kind of considers everything as a number. So, but you will, if you are learning something new, you will see the word integer, and you can only assign a number to that. For now, we don't have to worry about it because JavaScript doesn't really care. Okay? What we call this is JavaScript is not strongly typed. If you can ever come across that word, it's not strongly typed. Strongly typed. So JavaScript is not strongly typed. What it means is JavaScript is going to take a guess by looking at this. This is not like a strong. You cannot tell that this is going to have a number ever. It's kind of guessing game. So that's why it's called JavaScript is not a strongly typed language. Okay. The last variable, the last data type is called Boolean. Boolean means true and false. 1 and 0. Basically, JavaScript is called true and false. Var So now I'm saying declare a variable called best avenger and assign a Boolean data type called false. I just take a guess. All right. So again, in this case, JavaScript going to say this is a Boolean variable, Boolean data type, and the values that it can have is true and false without the quote. True or false without the quotes, and JavaScript will understand it. It will not consider this as a number or anything as long as the word true and false is typed in. Yes.
So to declare a variable, you have to make a value. You can't just make something that's Boolean that's not either.
Yeah. You don't have to, But at that point, everything is fair game. JavaScript will be like, okay, whenever I encounter a value, then I'm going to guess the data type. So Matt's question is, what if he doesn't, do I have to assign a value? Right? Kind of a little bit advanced, but you don't have to. You can totally say var name and then semicolon. So it ends over here. But what is happening over here is JavaScript at this point will not know if this is a string, boolean, or a number. At some point in the code, you will come across, you declared a variable, so you declared it, you have to put something in it, right? So at some point in the code, if you do name is equal to some name, JavaScript is going to be like, oh, this is a string. But again, this is more like a workings of JavaScript, but yeah. JavaScript, at this point, it won't know, but when it encounters, I could totally put a number over here, and JavaScript is going to be like, oh, name is a data type of number now.
So it just doesn't have a type until it has a value.
Yes, yes. It doesn't know what's going to be the type and how to treat it, right? Okay? All right, any other questions? So 3 data types, string, number, boolean. These are more like a concept. Remember, when I talk about it, when I say something, that's what it means. But when you're writing the code, you can see that there's nowhere you will see the word string, number, or boolean. That's not how JavaScript works. Okay? So JavaScript takes a guess, and then by looking at it, also we have to take a guess too. If I look at it, I'm like, okay, this is a boolean. Oh, this is a number. Oh, this is a string. That's how I talk. Okay? Yes?
Does number have to be in decimal format, or could you make it
No.
1/3?
Oh, it has to be decimal or a number. For example, you are saying that if I do it 1/3?
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, the slash kind of has a different meaning in JavaScript, so it won't work. Yeah, it will. Well, you might get the result. So basically, you are trying to store a. Yeah, you won't have the exact 1/3, but you'll get the value. Yeah. Slash in JavaScript means division. So it's actually going to divide this and then give you the value. Okay, good questions. What else? Okay, let me now get to the coding part, and I'm going to show you really quick how do we create. Okay, let's start with index.html. All right. So when we come to the coding part, remember when we were using CSS, we were using the keyword link. For JavaScript, it's called script. The tag, the HTML tag is called script. Okay. The trickier part is, now where does the link tag go? In the head, right? Script tag also goes in the head and also can go in the body. Okay, that's the interesting part. So I can have a script tag here, and then I can also have a script tag here. Both of them works.
Why would you put one?
Exactly. Right.
What is the difference? Is it just
There's a yes. What is the difference if I put the head tag, put it over here and put it over here?
well, that would just so like on page stuff
Do
you
they-
don't see, I guess.
What was it?
If it's like on page things that are happening that you're not really trying to see.
Yeah.
And that might be something that you interact with. I don't know.
No, well, I'll answer that. Something like this.
I
Yes.
was gonna say something like that.
Okay. Yeah. So whatever code you write is going to be interactive. Is going to work the same way. The only reason is what happens is when your page loads, your HTML page loads in your browser, it goes to the first line, then second, and third. This is how it executes everything. When it comes to the script tag, it knows, oh, this is a JavaScript. I need to go and grab the file. Let's suppose your JavaScript file is on a central server somewhere, right? It's going to stop execution over here until it gets that file, until it loads that file, and then we'll come to the next one. Okay? Now, what's the downside? If it's a big file, if it's a third party that you're trying to download, your web page is going to stop and it's going to hang until that file comes back. Worse is you will see a lot of people putting it at the bottom of the body. You have your HTML code something over here. Okay, and then at the bottom you will see script tag, and then you will see a file. What this happens is now what has happened? Go. Your HTML page gets loaded, and then your script is kind of downloaded. So you get an experience. That's the only difference.
Like bigger sites, when there's a lot of JavaScript.
Yeah.
I just think like Fox News or CNN, because usually it loads up stuff.
Right.
You'll see most of it, but then like some other stuff.
Right.
Certain things.
Right. So this is I'm telling you the basic case. This is before HTML5. Now they have introduced some other properties or attributes. You can put one of the attribute is called async. I won't go into detail, but what it means is kind of download in parallel. Don't kind of block over here and start running and kind of download this in parallel, right? But it has its own issues. So if you're using async, you have to be careful about other things. But we'll get that later. But here are the two options. You can put a script tag in the head and the body. You will see me putting in the head right now because we don't have any complicated JavaScript. Nothing is going to break. It will still be fine. But you can totally put it over here. Okay? So head or body. You can even put the script tag on the top. It doesn't matter. It has to be script. You can have multiple script tags. You can have more than one. It's totally fine. Okay? Within your script tags is all your JavaScript code. So we were discussing the variable, right? So this is kind of like the style tag. So I was saying var name is equal to, and this is how you declare a variable. And this, everything within the script is considered JavaScript code. Okay? Now, you remember the CSS I was saying, if it is your HTML code, please keep only HTML code. Same thing over here. If you have JavaScript code, please keep it separate and don't embed it in your HTML. I don't like to do it, and you will see a lot of sites not following it. Right? This is the basic one. Right now, I might do some examples because this is a line and it's easier to see what's going on. But what we should be getting in the habit of is the same thing. We created a CSS file. So let's suppose variable.js. I'm going to call it variable.js. And I can just move this code here. Keep your JavaScript code separate. And then what do? You just have to link it. And the linking part is same. So you do the script tag, source, variable.js. This is the exact same thing as me writing my JavaScript over here. Same flow. It will come here. It will load this, and then it will, variable, and then it will skip it. There's no difference. Yes?
So it's really different than HTML and CSS. The CSS is basically HTML.
Yeah.
And this is just already script SOC.
Yeah. This is the syntax. Means script, source, and then you put in the JavaScript file. That's how you do it for JavaScript. Yeah. You will at times you will see another attribute over here saying type, and it will say text / JavaScript. Okay. Now this is like the older syntax from HTML4. You had to mention what that is a JavaScript file. If you're developing HTML5, this is kind of optional, and your HTML file by default will assume that this is JavaScript file. So that's the only difference. It's an older syntax. People who have coded for years in that, they kind of bring it over. It's fine. But in HTML5, it's kind of optional. You mention it, it will work. You don't mention it, by default, it will say this is a JavaScript file.
Is that default because of the script tag, or is it
Because of the script tag. Yes.
So would you recommend always using the JavaScript?
Always. I don't want to see my JavaScript code at the bottom of HTML. Kind of confusing. Right now it's small, it's fine, but when it gets bigger, it's kind of crowd your HTML. You'll be confused what's going on. So it's better to keep it separate. Okay. Again, even if you move this on the head for now, it's still good because we don't have any complicated code. It's never going to stop over here. So both the cases are fine. Okay, so you have like kind of more than one options where you want to put it, right? There will be situations where you will have to put it in the body. When you get there, we'll talk about it, because you see the sequence. Loads here, 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 goes here, executes this, then comes down. Just kind of it goes in sequence. When it is in some cases, if it is out of order, you will have different results. At this point, we won't run into any issue, so it's fine. We'll come to it. For now, put it in the head. This will be okay. Okay. Now getting back to our variables, I did the string one. If I want to do a number, I'm going to say number. Okay. Okay. Now please notice my naming of variables. Very, very good standard. The naming of variable, you see, is best Avenger. I started with the lowercase is, then my every other word was uppercase. This is called camel casing. Whenever you hear the word camel casing, this is what it is referring to. Camel casing, in camel casing, what we do is, if your variable name is, a kind of words, you break it down, and this is how you do it. Start with the lower, the first word is going to be all lower, and the subsequent words, the first letter is going to be uppercase. All right. Let's suppose I had a variable called this is my name. This is how I declare the variable. You see what I did? Camel casing. The first was the lowercase, the second, the subsequent uppercase. Right. This is the standard for naming your variables. Can I name my variable like this? Totally you can, but it's not good practice. Kind of hard to read what's going on. And sometimes, if the words are kind of matching, there might be the wrong meaning what's going on. Yeah. Yes?
What's the reason for not capitalizing the first word?
Again, that's just the standard. It's called the camel casing standard. That's the camel casing. Now there's another standard called title casing. In title casing, what you do is you capitalize the first one. You said this is my name. Right? But title cases, camel casing is reserved for variables. Title casing is reserved for something else. And when we get to it, I'll show you what it is. Right? It's classes, but we'll get to it. But for variables, title casing, camel casing is reserved. Okay? So please get into and your variable name should be good, should be descriptive, should actually make sense. Var n is equal to, please don't do this. Somebody else reading your code is like var n, and imagine you have this at the top and you have like 50 lines of code at the bottom. You are doing something and you are writing some more code. You are checking if n is Tony Stark, right? You'll be like, or you just stop, or you're writing some code that does this. You'll be like, what is n? I don't get it, right? And then you have to scroll up. Somebody has to go up and try to find out what actually n is. Is it a string? Is it a name, or is it a number? You're saying num, or is it something else? So always give your variable name good descriptive names. There will be some points where you can get by shorter names, and we'll see what those are. But usually when you're doing it at the top of your file, you're doing something like this, give good names would actually make sense, right? And use camel casing. All right, questions? Good. All right, let's do an exercise for this one. Take a look at, it's called pizza variables. But it's not, if you understand the concept, it's not like super complicated. So just work on it for like 10 minutes. It's more like, let's see what it actually says. And Nick has slacked out the instructions, zip file. Okay. So it has some code at the bottom. So don't worry about that code right now. We'll come to it. But wherever the comments are, I didn't mention, but in JavaScript, this is how you put a comment. Everybody knows what a comment is, right? Comment is something that you type in as a description, and your JavaScript or any other language kind of ignores it. So you can type anything with this, all these lines are ignored, and this is with a double slash. The other way to do is a slash and asterisk or like this. These are called multi-line comments. So this is a multi-line comment. Or you could do this. Because these are single line, this I cannot do is, see, it's sorry, start guessing, is I can't do this. So that's why it's a single line comment, and that's a multi-line. But anybody has any questions about the exercise? Pretty straightforward. Everybody get it? Working? Script tags? Well, at this point, it doesn't do anything. It will just open up an empty page. And, huh? Oh, this exercise. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I was looking at my code over here, and I was like, oh, it doesn't do
This
anything.
isn't gonna do anything.
Yeah, we'll look at what alert, what each one of them means in a little while. Yes. Uh-huh. Yes. Every word. Yeah, every word.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's not the first.
Right. And usually, if it's a boolean, if it's a true and false, I start my variables with is. That's also the standard. So, is this my name? So this would mean it's a boolean. It's going to have true or false. Usually, it's is starts with is, and then some question that you're trying to ask. Oh, if it's the best is true or false, the answer would be true or false. So that's kind of, again, you can name anything, but that's the standard practice.
Yeah, you can think of like naming like booleans as if it were a question, like is something, right? Is it, you know, it either is or it isn't. That's the best way to describe it.
All right, let's go ahead. Any questions on the previous exercise? Everybody good, comfortable declaring variables? All right, now if I say declare a variable name, assign this value, please. All right, everybody get it? They can type this thing. Okay. All right, and I impress upon the technical linguist because that's how we need to get into that habit. But that's how people talk, and that's somebody. If I say something, I've experienced that people like what? Then I have to say, oh, type in var space name space equal space double quotes. It kind of takes it's a load on my voice, so that's why I stress that please understand what the lingo is so that you guys kind of in the habit of using it. Okay. All right, let's go ahead. Yes.
So when you do the video, you need to promote basic button and name, that could be lowercase, or it has to be.
No, it is still. If you technically if you look, it's still camel case. My word is just name stops over there.
Okay.
Right? If you have multiple words in your variable name, that's where the camel case comes in. So this is camel case because I had the word I started with a lowercase, but I don't have anything, so I just stopped it. Right? If I had, let's suppose for this age, I had age of Avenger. If this was my variable name, then I would start with this. Yeah. Yeah.
Something that in the in the icon, it doesn't matter whether it's capitalized or not.
No, it's good. What exactly you're typing over here, that's exactly what you're going to get.
Okay.
Yeah. So it does matter. If I do this, then this is what you're going to get. So you have to make sure what your intention is. I will show you how to see all this stuff. Okay. All right. So the next, yes. You had a question? So for how would you use an HTML? Like what? Right. So there's no
That's right.
right. So that's why it doesn't even come to HTML.
Yeah.
So in CSS you have, but CSS you have seen it's all like lowercase. They follow a different standard. They have a class dash name, and that's how the CSS is. So keep to it in CSS. Yeah, keep to that. But camel casing, all that stuff, that's all JavaScript. Or to be honest, any other programming language also. They kind of carry over the same thing. All right. The next concept we're going to look at is called console log. Okay. Now you see, it says console dot log. But when again, the lingo is when I talk about it, I would say console log something. Okay. You'll hear me saying, hey, console log this and see what happens. Right. That's how we will talk. So let me quickly break it down. Some of the things you won't understand right now, we'll get to it. So you see this console. This is called an object. Keep a note of it, and then when you come out from your Saturday class, I'm going to ask you next Tuesday, how do we relate to it? Console before the dot is called an object. This is an object, and this thing with the parentheses is called function. We looked at variables. The other part is called function. At this point, we just need to know that anything, if there is something similar like this, it's called a function. We'll see in the later classes how do we define and all that stuff. Okay. So what happens is, what a function is, the literal meaning of a function kind of carries it over. It does something. You know, if you're doing something, usually you'll see functions are verbs. Okay, and your variable names are kind of nouns. That's kind of standard. It's by a waiver some cases, but usually that's how it is. If you have something that does something, you create a function, it will tell you that it is performing some action. Right? So with that, it says log is performing an action which is logging. Right? It is mainly used for like debugging purposes. When you're trying to debug your JavaScript code, you will use this function a lot. All right, so this is why it is important. Right now, I'm going to show you how to use it. It doesn't seem any value, but later on you will see how we are going to use it for debugging purposes. It's probably the most used function throughout JavaScript. All right, now how does this work? Anything that you give in these parentheses, okay, again, going technical, anything that is in parentheses is called an argument. All right, keep that word in mind when we get to functions. I'm going to explain. Let's see what happens. Okay, so what this is saying is, whatever it is over here, take this and log kind of means print, right? Print this on the console, on your browser console. That's what this function means, right? Take whatever is between the parentheses and print it out on the browser console. Question, where is the browser console? How do I get to the browser console? What was that? Exactly. Inspect, and you will see a nice, you see this console? So this is your browser console. How do I get to it? Console tab. That's it. Okay. So what it is saying? My JavaScript code is saying take this and print it out on my browser console, and this is what shows up over here. Exactly the same thing. So if I change the casing, let's say it's going to print out that exactly like this. Okay? Yes.
Does Visual Studio Code have a console log?
Visual Studio has a console log. It has a terminal, but I'm not sure what it means that Visual Studio has a console.
It does have a console log, but the console log that we're using is going to be
Yeah. So this is useful to run in the browser because you're trying to debug your code that is running over here. So that's why you want to print it out and see what's going on. Okay. The next thing is, let's suppose I can put a number. All right, same thing. It's going to print out a number. I can put a Boolean value also. Good question. You can put variable names and functions also. Let's go ahead and do that. Console name.
So whenever you're going to an argument,
It's called an argument. Yes. Just remember these names. This is an object. This is an argument. When we get to the point, we'll connect the dots. Right? You see what happened? I put in a variable name and it printed the value that is assigned to this variable. Okay, that's how it works. And it's without quotes. Anything that you put without quotes, it's going to assume that this is a variable. Again, as I said, JavaScript takes a guess. It's going to go and try to find a variable called name. It's going to try to print it out. What if this doesn't exist? Name 2. We're going to get an error saying name 2 is not defined. I have not declared a variable called name 2. It's not a string, it's not a number. In the end, JavaScript decided it's not there. Yes. Huh? Yeah, you are going to use this throughout our JavaScript. Again, as I said, this is one of the most used debugging tools. Why it is? Again, you see you're trying to write some code and you're not sure what the value is, right? You're getting some data from somewhere else, but you want to see what the data is. Console log that data is going to show you everything. We'll come to that application. You will see this. This will be used a lot. Technical wise, you are coming to me, you're saying, hey, this is not working. I'm going to say, hey, console log your name variable. This is what you're going to do, console.log and name. And I want to see the value, what's inside there. Oh, give me, yes, sir. Yeah. You can see what exactly, at this point, I don't have to go and search over it. I can see what my name variable is over here. Yeah. What was your question, Brie? You got it? Here's the other cool thing. You can add things also. See what I did over here? Now, let's suppose if I just output name, I have like 10 more variables. I'm not sure, oh, is this name or is this name? You know, what I do is I kind of put a message before it and I say, oh, this is var name. So I know this is the variable name that is already. Again, what is happening? It just adding this and making it a big string. That's all it is. It is basically, oops, adding these two and making a big string. That's all it is doing. Okay, it's combining this and outputting this. That's all it does. Yes, Matt.
You did it the other way, put space after.
Yeah.
Where did it put that?
So, comma. I put a comma.
And that's always bad.
Oh, this thing, yeah, it just adds a space. Yep. And if you do a plus, it doesn't add a space. Yeah, that's the only difference. I like it because otherwise, if I use this syntax, then I have to add a space manually to kind of stick. So I just use, so both are available. It's kind of newer thing. It's kind of easy to navigate. Again, I can change this to age and put a age over here. That will also work. All right, you can put a boolean, anything. It should work. Okay. So basically prints out your values in the console. Yes.
So the gas stations are only for different variables. It's like it doesn't have a quote for string for A or when they put in the message in
This thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you put double quotes, it means a string. This means that it can be any. It could be a sentence. It could be anything. This is I put this so that I can identify that the value that I'm looking. If I just take that out, right? If I take this out, what's going to happen? Oops. What will be the output if I take this out? It's just going to say 40, right? Now I don't know what this 40. And looking at this, I'm like, is this my age variable or did I hard code this 40? Can you tell the difference? You cannot. You have to go in and look at it. So for my ease, what I do is I put a description saying, or I can do this too. I can say age, oops, comma, like this, so that I know this is my variable name, whatever makes sense to me. So now I can look at it, oh yeah, this is my age variable. It has a value 40, and this is what I'm looking for. It's more for us, right? Console doesn't care. Whatever you put in over there, that is going to just spit this exact same thing out. Okay, here's the you see what I did over here? I changed the case. Age is lowercase, but I put in uppercase A. What this tells me is JavaScript is case sensitive. Case sensitive. This means that the casing matters. If you have a variable called age with all lowercase, you try to access it using a different case, uppercase A or G, it's not going to work. Alright? There are some programming languages that are case insensitive. This means it doesn't matter if you do this or that, it will work. But JavaScript is case sensitive. Good thing to take a note of it. People kind of ask this also, hey, is JavaScript case sensitive or not?
And that's with regards to camel casing as well. If you don't have the uppercase B in best Avenger, for example.
Exactly, yeah, it doesn't matter. So if I do this, and I say this should work, right? But if I change the case over here, this shouldn't work. Gives you an error. Okay? So be careful when you're declaring a variable. Yes.
Okay, so the point of doing this console log would be you have a whole page already and you can find something.
Yes.
You just put in console log and you find where that is on.
Again, is that what I was saying in the beginning, right? These are divided into chunks. You will see the value. Right now, you might not see it, but what it helps is with the debugging purposes.
Okay.
Right now, it's a simple code, and you don't see the value. But let's suppose you have a calculation, you have some data that is coming into your website, and you are storing in this variable. Okay. Now, how do I see what is being stored? What is the content of this variable? I cannot see it. The only way to see it, one of the ways is I do a console log and I output this and I can see what exactly the value is. That's what. Let's suppose that this age thing, this is hitting from me. I don't know what it is. It's coming from somewhere outside and I'm getting this value, but I don't know what this value will have, right? Looking at the code, I cannot tell. So that's why I do an output, do a console log and exactly see what the value is. We'll come to the practical situations and believe me, you're going to be using this a lot. Okay. Good questions. Anything else? Good? All right, let's take a look at the activity and we'll take a 10-minute break. We'll start back at 8 o'clock. It's a small activity, just take a look at it. Then you can go on a break, come back, and then start working on it. It just console logs everything that you have. Let me make sure. It should be called. Oh, it's coming. It should be called Pizza Console. Yeah. Should be make it donuts. How about change the variable names and make it donuts?
That's all over those singles. That's all over those singles. You can yeah, it's nice to do it so that but what I normally do is, have this file only thing you gotta do is refresh it. Yeah, so, but yeah, what I would do is the same thing.
Yes.
I would just open
Do you always have the three variables? Like, does the Tony Stark always has to be defined by his age and what he is, or it could be just in the JavaScript you can have just name and age, like, or those three, the three things have to always
No.
define. No,
No.
it
Those
could be.
variable names that I was an
Yeah.
example.
Just-
You did the pizza one, right? Now they
Yeah.
are called pizzas.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's
So you
all
don't
different.
have to have like that has
No.
to be defined by
No.
a certain
No.
number of things. So
You can have
okay.
as less as you want. As
Okay,
many
so
as
it could
you
be just one, just the name.
Totally one. Yep.
Oh, okay.
That's the
I
use
was
case.
just
You can only
wondering.
have one.
Okay.
And you can name anything that makes more sense to you.
Okay.
It doesn't
So-
have to be name, age, and
So when you said that with pizza, so the pizza name, so the pizza name is name.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see what the
that-
pizza one was. Let me
Uh-huh.
go back here. Pizza
So I
variables,
think I'm
right?
a little confused on this. So while let's say you
Right.
can,
So you see the pizza count.
Uh-huh.
You
Yeah.
call it pizza count,
yes,
right? I called it age. You can call it anything. But in this
Okay.
scenario, we're talking about pizza. So what makes sense
Okay.
is number of pizzas. So that's what.
Okay.
Are you hungry? So that's what the variable
so
called.
you did want it to have three
Yeah.
descriptions
and
about that.
right.
Yes,
And
okay.
three, because I want to make sure that you guys understand that the three basic types: string,
Yeah.
number, and boolean. There are a
String,
few
number, and
more,
boolean.
but for now,
Right.
these three are more important. So
But
that's
you
what-
do not like it doesn't
No.
have to be.
No.
That's what I was wondering. That you always have to describe it in a three
Mm,
ways. With
no.
the name, with
No, no,
any count.
no.
Okay.
This I could call this
Mm-hmm.
customer. Also customer name.
Yeah.
Right, so-
Yeah, but I know we're
Yeah.
talking about the pizza, but it doesn't. Let's say you can say customer name, and you can also say he's hungry. True. But
Yeah,
it doesn't
yeah,
have
it doesn't
to be
have to have this.
number.
Perfect.
Okay. So with the sometimes you just give name, and sometimes this is my name.
Yeah. Again,
Why?
there's no again this
I can
this thing.
Sorry. So you
This
can.
thing? This thing can be as descriptive.
Okay.
What makes more sense to you?
Okay. So it doesn't really matter if I
No.
have to have it. Okay.
You
Good.
can name
Uh-huh.
this n from
Yeah, but
JavaScript
yeah.
perspective. It will
Yes.
work. JavaScript doesn't care. It will
Okay,
work.
but
But
it
for
will
you,
just-
it won't. You'll be like, what is n? I don't know what it is.
Thank
That's
you.
it. Yeah?
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
I'm scared to death.
No,
Which I'm
that's
just-
good.
it better be
These are
right.
good questions. It's better you clarify right now versus because these are, as I said, like very basic things. You're going to be like, you have to know this like back of your hand. Like don't even think about this. And that's how quickly we should be doing this.
Practice make it easy.
Yeah. Practice it. Go back, do those activities, make sure you understand what these are. Try different things.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
I know that's what it is. It's like OCD, but it's like even more. I have to get it. They're just like it works.
I know, like some of them are like it works, and other ones are like.
I like organization. If you organize it right, yeah, I was like, still all massage and certain things I have to do together. But that's what I want because I know if I change like font like this one, I'm not. I can't change that. Well, and I don't even know that. Okay, from the other one, they're on it's like top box. And I wanted it like and I just put up and down for every day. Honestly, I was gonna find throw it over there and then massage it there. Like, it's a lot of but it works. Then you can look at it and go, oh, it's kind of like, oh, it's happening here. Because then you can change something and break it. Oh, yeah. Something like this, put it down and come back and yeah, we're like, but it's like, hey, I'll go with it. It felt good. It was like that meme where it's like, how it works, I don't know why. It doesn't work, I don't know why.
Oh, yes. That's okay. All right. So let's get back. Any questions on console log? Any confusion? Any other questions? Everybody good? Kind of understand the concept, how to use it, how to print it on the console? Huh? Well, it won't be today. It will be at some point. Yeah, it's kind of advanced. I was just saying that anything that is between we call these arguments. That's what it's called. You can have one, you can have multiple arguments. Also. Right now, if I say console log is a function that has one argument of this means it's like one literal value. That's a technical term. You can have multiple arguments. We'll see when we get to functions. Right now, just write it down. When I do the functions, I'm going to come back and ask you guys the question. You guys see what I meant to. Okay. All right. So let's get back. We will do 3 more functions. Okay. We are going to look at 3 more functions. The first, and these are alert, confirm, and prompt. Okay. So we are going to look at these three functions. When I say function, this should automatically give you an idea that how do you do it. You write the name and it should have a parenthesis. Okay, this is a giveaway that this is a function. All right, now let's take a look at these are also common functions. Usually, again, it's good to know about these, especially in the initial stages when you're creating your web pages, which are more simpler. There are more better ways, but for now this will do. It's good to know that these exist, and these kind of come bundled in with your JavaScript engine and everything. So they're not as fancy or anything because the expectation is you're going to use something different. But we'll come to that. Now, what each one of these does. The first one you guys are already seeing. Let's see, alert. It's a function. So what I do is, my practice is I complete the syntax. This is not the right syntax. I need to pass an argument. But what happens is at times these parentheses kind of get lost. If I have a, you will see there are some functions that kind of get bigger. And people, what I've seen, I start doing this and then I start typing blah, 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 everything. And then by the time I get to the end of it, I'm like, where do I have a parentheses or do I not? So better case is, if you don't have this auto enabled, I just complete this and then come back to it. Okay. Now what does alert do? Alert is same as console log. The only thing is it has a pop-up. It will show you a pop-up. All of these functions are called pop-up functions basically. So they will pop up. They will open a new window, like a pop-up window with whatever you type in over here. In the browser, it opens this pop-up like this. You must have seen pop-ups where Google is trying to get your location or something, and a pop-up comes in, allow. This is what it is. Well, it's not exactly an alert. We'll see what exactly this is, but this is that pop-up. This is how you get it. Okay. Alert is the most simple one. Same as console. Anything you type in over here is going to alert with the same thing. So I can put string. I can put a number 40, and this will also work. I can put a variable name 40. I can put a variable name.
So you don't have to put console dot alert because it's not strongly.
Very, very, very good question. I don't know if I should answer that right now.
Answer the question.
Yeah. So these are functions. You see, these are anything that you create in JavaScript should exist somewhere, right? You see alert. I'm just using it, right? I'm just telling alert, hey, go, whatever I put in over here, go and do this. What does it? It brings up a pop-up, right? There should be some code behind this alert that is doing it, but I'm not writing it. It's provided to me. Okay. Now there are certain objects, we call them global objects. What it means is there are some functions and properties that are available to us without doing anything. Alert is one of them. Console log is one of them. If we go into more technical, all of these are part of an object called window, and this refers to your browser window. There's a you will see what objects are in the next class, but for now, remember these all are part of object called window. So in technically you can do window.alert, but window over here is redundant because nobody else is allowed to use the word alert as a function. So JavaScript has reserved that name. So without the window, it still works. Now I said all of these are part of the window object, and even console log. Console.log is also part of it. So I skipped the window part, right? So if I am not skipping the window part, how would it look like? Come on. No. Window.console.log. This is the real name and the more technical. But again, this window object is available globally, so we can skip it. JavaScript understands it. It's kind of redundant at this point. But take a note of it. This is called object, and we'll see in the next time what it. I'll come back to it. You kind of stole my thunder. I was going to ask you guys this question next class. Okay, good question. No, it's a good question because I like to know what's going on. Where is this coming from? And I had the same question. I was like, what's going on? How do I have access to it? This is the reason. Yes, ma'am.
Does alert to these other ones always stop the code?
Yes. Good question. So Matt is saying what happens with the alert. Alert kind of blocks the whole thing. It will not execute anything after unless you press OK and be like, all right, fine. So console. Oh, sometimes I hate live server. No, only at this point. This. This is. So you see this code is going to execute after I click. Okay, now this console log, it will not reach this code until I press OK. So these are called blocking pop-up. They kind of block the code. They'll stop over here until you click something, until you click OK. All right, good question. All right, so this is alert, simple, similar to this. Why would you use it? Probably not a lot because console log is there. I would just console log it, but good to know that this is there. When you see those pop-ups on the website, you kind of know what's going on. Okay, the second one is confirm. So confirm tells me that it's the same thing, alert, just like alert, and you pass in something. But confirm is that you're asking a question basically. Let's see what I mean by that. Function, okay, double quotes, I'm going to pass in a string. Okay, so confirm usually takes in a question, and I'm going to comment this out. It's going to annoy me. Yeah. So confirm brings up okay, what happened there? Brings up a same pop-up box, but now you see it has two buttons, cancel and OK. So that's why you can put anything in a confirm, but the purpose of confirm is that you're asking the user a question, and you're asking the answer of that question is going to be OK, cancel, yes, no, true, false, which means a Boolean. All right, you see how it's cancel, okay, yeah, it's a user text, but behind the scene it's 1 0, this or that. And what was the data type that we saw that is one or the other? Boolean, true and false. All right, so the answer to that is always going to be the true or false. Okay,
like stores, I guess.
We'll come to that. Good question. Yes, hold up. True or false? Okay. Now, Joffrey is asking now how do we know in the code that I answered okay, which is true, or I answered cancel, which is false. So confirm gives us that value back. All right. And in technical terms, we say that confirm returns a Boolean data type. Okay. No, not. I don't. I think these are the default one. I'll have to look into it if you can. Can you change it?
I don't think you can
Yeah.
use these ones specifically.
Yeah. Because these are the basics window pop-ups that are there, but yeah, you can change from Bootstrap or something different. Yeah. Okay, all right. So again, if this function returns me some value, okay, returns me true or false. Okay. Now, what is true or false? It's a data, right? I need to store the data. And how do I store the data? We're using a variable. Excellent. So I can create a variable called answer. Let's say I'm going to call it answer. Okay. And then I'm going to answer, and I need to put something in it. What am I putting? True or false, but confirm is already returning me something. I can totally do this. Again, let's see what happens. Create a variable answer, which is going to have true or false. My confirm function I'm saying is going to return me that value. It's going to return me true and false. Functions, we saw the alert. Now, seeing the same pattern, does alert return anything? No, I can guess. Alert doesn't return me anything because I'm not kind of storing that value. But confirm returns me a value, and this is how you store that value. Yes, George? Oh, okay. So confirm is going to return me true and false, and this is how I store it. So what I'm saying over here is confirm pop-up, ask a question, and whatever the response is, store the data in answer. How do I make sure if this is stored? Now I want to see what the value of answer is. Here's the use case. I want to see the value of answer. How do I see the value? How do I find out? Use a console log. Right? How do I see that answer is? So I'm going to console log and say answer. Answer. Okay. And then I'm going to put the variable name answer over here. Okay. Now you will see at the bottom what happens if I say okay. Oops. Let me refresh this. Answer is true. You see? At this point, I don't know what the answer is, but I want to console log and see, and this is how I get it. Okay, let me remove these so that you guys are just gonna see this. If I say cancel, it should return false. This is false. This is the I'm starting over. So at this point you cannot tell you because you have to refresh the page and then it comes up. But there are different ways you can tell you. For now, yeah. Okay. So this was the second function called confirm. Again, confirm only responds with true and false. Usually, you're going to put a question over there. You can put anything. Oh, Captain America's real name is Steve Rogers. Yes or no? But technically, when you're putting this confirm, the intention is you're going to ask a question. Okay? All right. Let's look at the last one. Prompt. Prompt is more open. So we saw alert, right? Doesn't return anything, whatever you want to display. Then we saw confirm, which returns you true and false, a question. A third one kind of makes logical sense that if it's not a question, it's kind of input. You're trying to ask the user something else, which is not usually true and false. That's where prompt comes in. You're asking something, you are taking an input from the user. It's not a question, it's not going to be true and false. Could be something else. Could be like, what is the real name of Captain America? You have to type in Steve Rogers, right? So that's where prompt comes in. Prompt will let you do that. So let's take a look at prompt. I'm going to comment this, otherwise it's going to keep popping up on my face here. Prompt. What is the okay? So anything that you type in, it will come up and it will give you this is called a text box or an input box, remember from the HTML. And it will, you can type, it's a free text, you can type anything. over here, and that it's called a prompt, huh? It doesn't matter. You can type in 40. You can type in string. Well, at this point, it doesn't matter. It doesn't know. There's no data type involved with it. Or at this point, good one, keep that in mind, but it just mixes it up.
It's just basically just inputting whatever you put in. It's not like classified.
You were going to say it's a string?
I would.
Yes, and it is a string. Keep that in mind. Yeah, we'll come back. Yeah, it is. Okay, at this point, everybody clear? See the differences? Alert, pop up, can't type anything over here, confirm true and false, prompt, free text. You can type anything. All right? Yes, and not over here. There are more. This is again, I would say this is just a basic one. You probably won't even use it. If you have those things, there are better options. Bootstrap comes with it. There are a few more things that you can play, more sophisticated ones. Yes. Yeah, alert, again, the use case would be, I'm not trying to look at the console. I just want to see it, the value that I'm trying to find over there. Or I'm alerting something. My website, excuse me, the user does something and you want to alert the user saying, hey, this is what's going to happen. So just you alert. Just the basic JavaScript.
Well, question.
Yeah.
So all of this, I guess this is probably related, but I mean, where does it store all this? I mean, is it like a database or something?
So the answer, it doesn't store anywhere. It's giving you. You have to make sure and store something. And store this answer, which is a memory. It will store everything in your memory. As soon as I refresh, why does it refresh? Because it goes away from the memory. Memory is temporary. It kind of deallocates it, comes back, does it again.
I do probably have that question, but I don't. So the point, I understand the confirm when we did a confirm, but the point of the var answer with the confirmed in there was for the memory. Is that
Okay.
right?
Yeah, you're
Okay.
storing. You're getting a value that you don't want to get lost. Right? You want to do something with that value. How do you do it? You store it in a variable, because variable is the place where you hold data. Right? Is this the answer?
So you don't have to have the confirm also separate. It can just be in the answer, like how you have it right there. You don't have to have like a confirm underneath it with everything again.
Yes? I didn't get the question.
So like originally we just have the confirm with the question,
Yes.
and then we put that in the variable. We don't have to have that again, the confirm part again. It just.
You don't have to. I mean, again, depends. Maybe you have two more questions. I can have more confirms. The next question could be, oh, is Tony Stark, is Iron Man the best Avenger? I can have one more question. I can keep going on. You can have as many confirms as you want.
Okay.
So let's suppose you're building a website where it asks questions and you're trying to store the answers. Then you have multiple confirms. Confirms, best use case is when you're trying to delete something. You remember, you see website, you have a table of information and you delete it. You will ask, are you sure you want to delete it? And then you bring up one more pop-up. Are you really sure? And I keep asking that 10 times. That's very cool. Okay. Now prompt. Now thinking the same thing. Now this thing, we saw confirm was returning something, right? What do you think about prompt? Now I'm putting something over here and I say, okay. It kind of gets lost. So what should be prompt be doing? Prompt is also returning. Storing is our part. Prompt is also returning something. So I'm going to create a variable here. Call it name. And whatever prompt returns, I'm going to store that. Okay? How do I check it? I'm going to do a console log. And then I'm going to store that value. Okay? Hold on. So I say Steve Rogers.
Error.
What happened?
Because you already have the var name.
Well, I'm missing the name over here. I commented that name out. Well, yeah, I do have it.
Oh, there you go.
Okay? So it comes back over here.
think I'm getting one of Laura's question was.
Whose question?
Laura had a question before saying, were you just basically before you did that step in adding the bar camera, you had prompts, question mark, what it, or
Yeah.
questions. Is it best practice to just say bar name because you already know you're going to want to have
Yes.
memory?
That's how I started. I was backtracking, but this is how you
Yeah.
when you create a prompt.
Oh,
that was the question. Oh, okay. So sorry, I didn't get the question. Yes, if I'm creating a prompt and I know it, so I'm going to say var age is equal to prompt, and then I'm going to ask my question. Sorry, I didn't get the question, but this is how you would do it. Yes. Okay. Now here's the interesting part. What's the data type of this variable answer? It's Boolean, correct? Right? It's Boolean. You can guess. What's the data type of this one? String. It's always going to be string. It doesn't matter if you put a number over here. It's always going to be return you a string. All right. Now how you can test it? What was it doing? Do you see there was a extra function at the bottom, parse int? You guys take a look at that. Is it there? We can go back and take a look at it. How do I know this is always going to be a string and a number? You see what I entered? I entered 100. I'm adding that age with 10. What should be the result? Logically, you see it should be 110, right? If it was a number. But since you don't get a number, you get a string, it treats age as 100 and adds literally like 10. This tells me the data type is always going to be a string. You can get a number, you have to do some conversion, we can look at that. But basic sense is going to return always a string. Now what would happen if I press cancel? Right, so what was I entering? I was entering some number or name. It shows up that if I press cancel, the value is null. This is a keyword from JavaScript, and null means that there's nothing was entered. That's what it means. Okay? If you press cancel, your response is going to be no. Got that? All right. Any question? Yes. No. Undeclared is if I put age 2, this variable is not declared anywhere. So this is an undeclared or an undefined one. Null is that it is there, but there's no value. There's no value in it. Undefined, undeclared means it doesn't exist. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes.
Is that just for you? That's just like
for me.
Okay.
Yes. I can see the confusion because I changed the name age over here.
Yeah.
Right. But over here, JavaScript is going to ignore anything in quotes. It's going to just output it. It knows I don't have to do any calculation. I don't have to worry about if this exists, if it doesn't exist. It's just for our thing, what you're going to see on the console.
Okay, yeah. That's something that you should do because I know I've been doing other console log stuff.
That's what I'm saying. If I have 10 variable names and I'm just outputting the data, I'm like, well, is it this one or is it this one? Just type in the description, so it helps. Type in a few more words and I exactly know what I'm doing. Okay? All right, let's do the activity. Take a look at the next one. It should take you all 3. look at the next one. Make sure you guys understand all these three functions, including the console log, and then we will look at a little bit two more complex concepts. Yes.
I'm trying to I'm looking up in Chrome. It's not working for anything I've been doing like today.
I don't know if I'm missing an extension or I'm just doing this wrong.
So, scraping.
So
What does it happen?
let me off my screen real quick. So let's open this up. So we control, open rec, open the Chrome, and nothing is going to pass.
So alert. Remember, I was saying it's a case sensitive. A is lowercase. Yeah, case sensitive, right? Casing matters. Right. Any questions on this? Anybody having issues with any of these three functions? Alert, confirm, prompt. Working? No?
Yeah.
Okay. What are you doing?
How far?
Okay. Is your console log was working? This works? The console log thing. The previous one. Is that working? Yeah. Console log activity, was that working? So what's the pop-up coming up?
Yeah.
What is your console log? And the answer? Add a semicolon at the end of the release line. Add some space between your, let's say how I did it, var answer space. Just add a space kind of visually looks nicer. And then do a console log answer. Look at the console. All right. Any other questions? Okay. All right, guys. Look at this one. So what if I type this in? What does this tell you? Somebody who can break this down for me. If I type in document.write, yes, Ali. Oh yeah, no, I'm asking when I type in document.write, what does this tell you? How do you break it out? Remember console.log, I broke it down. So what is document? Object. It's an object. We don't know what it is. I just told it's an object. Yeah. Yeah, that's what it does. Yeah, I'll come to that. What I was asking is if I type this in and you have like no idea. So document is an object. And what is right? A function. Right? That's what. Yeah. We'll see what it does. All right. Yeah, we'll come to that. All right. So let's take a look at this really quick. Document.write. There should be a way to communicate from your JavaScript to your HTML. All right, and document.write does that. Right now we are doing alerts, we are doing console, everything is over here, but nothing shows up on my web page over here. Right? One quick way, we'll see better ways, but for our purpose, document.write will write your JavaScript into your HTML. You see, I'm going to close my console. Anything that you put in document.write is going to show up on your web page. Here's a cool thing. You can even put your, as Jay and Ali was saying, you can put your H1s and it will recognize those tags as well. You say that now. When we get to that, you'll be like, oh, you'll get plenty of this back. Alright? So document.write is a method is used to, if you want something from your JavaScript and then you want to write it on your web page. Now, instead of doing it console, I can totally do, I can put in variables. Oops. Let me put a name. I think it's still there. Name. Okay, so it puts whatever that value is. Alright. So you can put in the same concept as console login. The only thing over here is it will take from your JavaScript and it will put it on your web page. Alright, document.write. There are disadvantages of it, but when we get to a more sophisticated methods, we will see how we can abandon this and use much better. But for now, for our use case, for the next exercise, this will work. Okay? Any questions on this? Right, you see the pattern, we saw console log, does it on the console, we saw the 3 pop-ups. Document.write kind of similar to console log, but what it does is this time it puts it on your web page. Right? It recognizes your HTML also. Alright? Okay. Let's look at the next one. This is really, really important. The next two. We are going to look at something called conditions. So one of the other foundations for any programming language is called conditions. What does condition mean? Condition is a scenario, like if this happens, then do this, otherwise do this, or do this and this, right? So in your programming, you will come at situations that you'll be like, oh, if my variable has a value of this, then do this. If it has a value of this, then perform some other actions. You see the conditions. That's what condition means. Now, how do you translate that? Let's look at some code and then we'll come back and see if it makes sense. So what the syntax is, you say if, parentheses, curly brackets. So if, and within the parentheses, whatever, they should always evaluate to true. So if I break it down, if is this, and this is called condition. Whatever I put in, right now I don't have anything over here, but whatever I put in the parentheses is called condition. And it should always evaluate to true. Just keep that in mind. What does this mean? If I say name, so this is called a condition first of all. Anything that is within parentheses, you call that a condition. Okay. Now what is happening over here? We saw 1 equal to, right? What is 1 equal to called? We were using it in variable, and we were saying assignment, right? This is called an assignment operator. Triple equal to is the comparison operator. It will compare your left and your right. It's going to compare the two values and it's going to return true or false. it's always going to return you a condition. It's going to be true or it's going to be false. Alright? So what am I saying over here? If the name variable has a value of Tony Stark, this means this condition is true. And what follows after the curly brackets is any code that you want to execute, if this statement is true, you put it over here. Alright? This. No, it can be true and false, but what is true is anything that is with the if, that should always evaluate, that will execute only if it is true. I'll say that one more time. Let me.
So that they always execute it.
Yes. So, again, one more time. This is called a if statement. Within the parentheses is called a condition. If this is true, then the code within these parentheses will only execute. This can evaluate to true or false. When would it evaluate to false? If I change the name over here, right? If I say, so now this condition becomes false. Is the name Steve? If I go back, I assign Tony Stark over here. So this means now this statement is false and it's not going to execute this piece of the code, and that's why you don't see anything over here. You see that? If I put that back in and it matches, you will see this code coming up over here. I'm saying if this condition is true, if the name is equal to Tony Stark, then go ahead and execute this piece of the code. If the code is between these curly brackets. Okay? Yes.
I'm sorry, I might have missed it, but you did 3 this
I did what? 3 equal to signs, yes. Yeah. 1 means assignment. You cannot use 1 over here. You're going to use 3. This means equal. That is name equal to Tony Stark. In technical terms, in coding, we don't call this equal thing. We always call it assignment. When we talk about equal, this is what we mean. That if this is equal to this, 3 operators. Okay? Alright, now what happens if this condition, if I put in Steve, what will it return me? It will say false. Okay, so this condition will never work. Then you have something called else, these both go together. If it has to begin with an if, okay, and then everything else is optional. Alright. So now if I'm saying that if this is true, then do this, what would it mean if I put else over here? Right, exactly. This means that if this statement is false, then execute any code that is over here. So if I just copy paste this over here and then say not okay. So what is happening now? My name has a Tony Stark in it, but right now I'm checking if the name is Steve, then do this. Right now it's not Steve. So what will happen? It will ignore this part, it will come into else. Else, do this. Yes. Else, it's just this is how, when you get used to it, this is how you write the syntax, but it has to be like this. Right, you can put in the new line. But you cannot just have a else. You cannot just do this. You see the red line? It's an error. You cannot. Your statement always has to start with an if, and this is conditional. Like this is optional. This part is optional. You can put it. If you don't put it, depending on what you want. But it is part of this statement. Yes. One more thing. Yes, George. The if?
Yes, if it was,
Yes.
let's say if it's Steve.
Oh, yes, it is.
How would you come back with that?
Yes, it is. Is it absolutely case sensitive? It is absolutely case sensitive. It still will say not Tony Stark because I put in lowercase. It is going to exactly match over here. Okay. Now I'm using a string variable. I can totally use a number. I can totally use a number also over here. You see the pattern? I can put age is equal to 40. This will work. Array. Jumping ahead, guys. Stealing my thunder. We'll compare arrays. Alright, for now, this is called condition. Now, you can only have one else. But let's suppose you have multiple things, right? I'm kind of isolating this. I want another condition. Else, I can add a if, and I can say name is equal to Steve. So I can have multiple conditions. So now what am I saying? If the name is Tony Stark, do this. Else if the name is Steve, so if I change it to Steve, do this. And then I can have else also. If none of this is true, then I want this to happen. Okay. Couple of points. You can only have one else, and that has to be the final statement. All right. Else if you can have as many as you like. It doesn't matter. Should start with an if. Those are the rules. Starts with an if, one else, one if, and then you can have multiple else if, however you want. If you're using else if, you remember, see the syntax is the same. If you use an if, you have to have a condition. It is absolutely necessary. It's not going to work without the condition. Just like this one.
You know,
Yes,
one
George.
else, but you can have as many else ifs.
You can have as many else ifs, but one if and one else. In one condition. This, you see these parentheses, it ends over here. I can have different other conditions separate. I can have another one over here if age is equal to 40, do something, and then else if I can say age is equal to 100, then do this, else do something here. But these two are separate. This thing ends over here. JavaScript will consider this as one block, and then you can start with a new one separate. You can have multiple, but if you are grouping, this is how they should be grouped. But you can have as many of these separate also. Okay, you see the code ends over here, and then good. Give me a minute, George. Yeah, George.
So what I'm really confused is with the variable name equals Tony Stark, but let's say we add a name and Steve. Is that else every value include users and make sure that
Okay, so it checks over here to see if the value, what is name? Name is a variable, right?
Yeah.
It has a data inside it. Okay, so what it is evaluating is basically it is saying if name, when you run this code becomes if, what is the value of name right now? Steve. So it's going to become if Steve is equal to Tony Stark. This is what JavaScript evaluates it to. It will go find this variable, find what is stored in this variable, and then it's going to compare these two. What was that? If any of those, yeah, it starts on the top. It will execute this one first, then it will come to this, then there's a for, yeah. Okay. JavaScript right now what we're setting is always from top to bottom. So it will start with this, no, then it will come to this, then it will come to this. Good question though, because you need to put your conditions. If this condition is true, it will stop over here. It will not execute any one of those. So if you're expecting, oh, I want this also, then you need to change your if else. But if it works over here, it will stop and it will not go any further. It fails over here, which means that this is false, goes over here. If this is false, then this is the last default case that will restart. Yes, sir.
I have two questions. So in if, else, if, else, in our 20 start one we're looking at here, would you want to put your least likely result as your
Exactly.
first if?
That's what I would say. Yes.
And that way,
Yes.
the least likely result
Yep.
will fall over to the
Exactly.
more positive to the
Right. Yep.
all the way down.
Exactly. That's what you want to keep. This one is a failback, like a fallback one. Then none of these work. Now just do this. At this point, I would say, okay, I would say I don't know what I don't know what the name is. I cannot. It's not. It's not that I know what it is. So, but over here you will give a generic message saying not sure what the question was or what it was. But this is the fallback last thing. Yes.
And my original that was a question that's been answered. Off my original question though, can you set up multiple conditions for 20 start? You were doing one with age up above.
Yes.
Could you do a second one with 20 start to execute the second action?
Yes. You can totally can. All right. This is getting a little bit more advanced. Is everybody clear on this first?
Well, that one thing you just said was good. Putting it in the order, like you want
Yes.
the strongest one at the end, and then like I guess your best possible ones, and then go to least likely to the most
Right.
likely.
Right.
Why would you want them least likely to begin? Don't you want to exit the least possible?
Well, so you would put the most likely on the top. Is that what you were saying?
I flipped it.
Oh, you flipped it.
I was asking you put the least likely at the top.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, least likely would be because you want to execute as less line as possible. You want your result to be here and then done. You don't want to keep going. So most likely one you will put on the top, like oh this is the chance. Okay, this is it. Then this is it. Then in the end is the one that is the least likely, or nothing happens. Then you want to go because you want to execute your code and kind of finish it off as early as possible. Okay. Multiple conditions you can do it, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. I think there's a activity on Saturday. You will see those multiple ones. But if it is not clear, I can repeat it on whenever the next class is. But for now, let's keep it simple. You can put multiple. I'll show you that later. For now, any other questions on this thing?
Can you scroll over so it's even-
This one? Right now it's Steve.
Oh, I mean, the one we just did, 8. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. And then you can put true and false also over here. Is best Avenger is a... So it should evaluate to true or false. Alright, you can use all 3 data types in there. Alright, let's look at the activity. Take a look at the conditional activity and see what we can make of it. It's the... Now all your concepts that we have learned previous couple of hours, they're kind of coming together. So what you will see in this exercise, you have alerts, you have I think console logs. Let me see. Is everybody looking at the activity? Do you see this eat steak? So I want to point out what is happening over there. If you see the comment, what did I say in the if statement? This is a condition. It can be true or false. And when does the if execute? If only this is true, right? Then only this if statement is going to execute. That's how we talk. If this is true, then this if statement is going to execute. Otherwise, this else is going to execute, because this, when we talk about if, this is the whole if. When you talk about else, this is the whole else. All right. All right. So I'm saying over here that this if will only execute if the condition is true. All right. What is the data type for each state? Line number 12. If you had to take a guess, what is the data type for the variable eat steak? Boolean, exactly. So it is a Boolean. What is Boolean? True and false. Okay. So what is the possible values in each state? True or false. All right. So if I'm making a condition, I'm going to say if each state is equal to true. Okay. Now for Booleans, there's a shortcut You see the redundancy that this is also a Boolean, this is also a Boolean, and it can evaluate to true or false. You will, a lot of the time you will see if for the Boolean types, people kind of skip this. Now if you read it, what happens? If I select OK over here, the value would be true. If true, then do this, else do this. It is the same thing as saying if each state is equal to true. It's kind of redundant because these both are booleans, so this will evaluate to true and false. So you will see a lot of the time people skipping the true. But this, if right now you're not comfortable, totally do this. Totally do this. It's the same. It's just a shortcut to, and the reason is because this will always be true or false. Right, so you kind of skip that. But right now, if that's not, it's kind of a little bit trickier to get into, totally start using the same one. It's still fine. Get it? Okay. Yeah, he sent a zip file. Oh, make it from scratch. Oh, you guys are becoming real coders now. Yeah, make it from scratch. Create a website from scratch that asks the user if they eat steak. Yes. If they say yes, write the following to the page. So you're going to use document.write, right? You want to write to the HTML page. Okay. Let's see. We'll create a steak.js, and I'm going to just change this and make it read my steak.js instead. Okay. Ask the user if they use steak. So I'm going to use a confirm. Each steak is equal to confirm. What am I asking? Do you eat steak? Okay. Okay, so the first statement was you ask the user if they eat steak. So this tells me true and false, so I need to use a confirm, and that's how I did it. If they respond yes, tells you this is a condition. If they respond yes, write the following to the page. So if each steak is true, this means they said yes, then I want to do something. What do I have to do? Write it to the page. So how do I write it to the page? I use document.write. So I'm going to say document.write. What do I have to write? Do they have the instruction, or is it anything? Here's a steak sandwich. Okay, I'm going to just copy this. Let's see. Here's a steak sandwich. And you can format this JS file also, unlike the CS file. Alright, let's refresh this. Do you steak? If I say okay, it should say something. Okay, there it is. Here's a steak sandwich. So I have one condition done. But if I do cancel, nothing happens. So because I don't have a next condition. Let's see what they're saying. If this respond with no, write the following. Here's tofu stir fry. Okay. And how do you capture no? It would be else. Right? If they say yes, then that would be executed, otherwise this thing. So I'm going to say document.write. Here's a tofu. Okay, let's try this out. If I say okay, it should say here's a steak sandwich. That works. If I say cancel, which is no in my case, it should say here's a tofu stir fry. Okay. Yes. Yep. All right. The bonus is kind of tricky. You have to ask a question. So how do I ask like if I'm expecting something back? Prompt. Yes. So you're going to say var birth year is equal to prompt. Okay. What year? I'm going to console log to make sure I'm getting the value back. So I'm going to say console log birth year. Okay, let's try this. I'll say okay. Let's say any year. Let's go to my inspect. I'm going to look at my console log and make sure. Okay, I'm getting the value back now. So the bonus was kind of get the value back as the birth year. And what do I have to do after that? Ask what's the if they're under 21 alert, no sake for you. Okay. If they're under 21, so I'm going to have a if condition. Okay. Now what is a variable that I'm testing? I'm testing birth year. Okay. And then an age. I have to check if they are 21. So we saw triple equal to, right? Triple equal to 97. So what? Oh, I have one extra. Yes, exactly. So we want to check if it is less than that. So similar to equal to, we also have conditions. So we can totally put less than or greater than equal to. This is going to say if birth year is less than this thing, then do it. What is it? What was the question? You can, if you want less than or equal to, less than or equal to. So, oh, less than. Okay, so I need to put. It shows up. Okay. And then I can do same for greater than. So I can add a else if condition birth year is greater than. Okay. You can do it in one. Yeah. Well, I'm trying to. So right now my condition only covers all the years that are less than 97. I don't have a condition where what happens if I enter more than 1997. So I'm trying to add a condition to cater to that also now. We'd add a semicolon. If I enter 1000, no semicolon. Okay. Which is, you see, I have a condition for less than I have a condition for greater than 97. There's one condition that I'm missing. I'm missing the condition if neither of these conditions match. Let's see what happens if I say okay. So I'm missing 19. What if I enter 1997? I have a less than, I have a greater than. This will come if this is basically the equal to. If you enter 1997, this is what you will get.
Why don't you get 1995?
This thing you can put 1990. Is it 1998?
Okay.
Oh no! I just miscalculated. I just calculated the wrong math. I'm a year behind. Okay, yeah, that was just the calculation mistake. Good catch. Yes.
So what was the last one?
What was what?
The last one. It's if you type in it or
So what is the first condition? If anything that is less than 98. So it would be 97, 96, then this thing. If I enter anything more than 1998, it's 2000, this thing. What if I enter 1998? It's not less than 1998. It's not greater than 1998. It's actually equal to it. So if this will fail, this will fail. So this is basically saying else if
equal to.
yes, exactly. Very good. But it's kind of redundant because I'm already there. So there's no other condition left. So that's why I wrote it. Okay? Everybody good? Any questions? All right. All right, let's get back. Last thing. We're going to look at last concept. This is going to be arrays. Blair, you ready for it?
So psyched.
All right. Huh? It's related to, yeah, arrays are usually used with loops. All right. All right. All right, guys. Last topic of the day, arrays. Arrays. So we remember the variable concept. What was the assumption when we were discussing variable, the box example? I can only put one thing in this, right? And the variable is, if now at this point we know you can only stick one data type in it, right? What if I have multiple values? What if I have multiple data? That's where arrays come in. Arrays is a variable, is a special variable, is a data type which allows us to put multiple values. How many data types have we seen? String, number, Boolean. The fourth is arrays, right? This data type is called array. Now what array does is, array lets us put multiple values in our variable, right? It's a variable that can hold multiple data, right? Variables can hold only one. Remember the string one, you can only put one value and done. Age, only one and done. Array allows you to put multiple. Let's see. Okay. Oh, am I still gonna do this? Okay, change this. Okay. So array is, what did I say? Array is another kind of a variable with a different data type. So how would I declare it? I would say var. Okay. I'm going to give it a label or a name, same as any variable. Avengers array is equal to same thing. This is what is different. Square brackets. Every time you see something like this, you should automatically understand this. This variable is an array. Okay? This variable can hold multiple values. Alright? This is what it means. Square brackets. Remember always square brackets? Array. You will see in Saturday's class curly brackets, but that's a different different data type. But for now we saw string, number, boolean, and the fourth one is arrays. And how do you identify array? With the square brackets. Right? Now how do you put values inside it? You just like any variable. Let's see. Okay, that is 1. If I want a second one, I'm going to put comma, space, and then one more. Okay, I want a third one, comma, space. Okay, I'm taking requests. What else? Okay, you see what is happening?
Captain Marvel. Some ladies in here.
Oh.
Black Widow.
What? Blasphemy! No. Oh man. Oh God. You know what? Forget about arrays. We are going to discuss this. No. Okay. All right. All right. So you see what happened? So all right. Here's a tricky question. This is an array. What does the array contain? Multiple values. What is the data type of these values? String. It's an array of strings.
They have to be the same.
Yeah, you guys always ask. My pleasure.
Sorry, damn it.
Welcome to that. Good question. Good question. The question is, can I have multiple data types? Let's finish the single data type first. Let me show you the number array also, and then we'll come to that question. All right. So var Avengers age array. Array syntax, and then I can put numbers. He's 100 years old at least. Right, something like that. So what is the data type of this array now? Number. It's a array of numbers. I can have an array of boolean also. I can have true, false, all that stuff. Right? Now here's the weird part. People ask if I can have a mixed array. You can totally. JavaScript is weird. I hear that. You can totally have a mixed array. I don't know why you would do that, but you can totally have it. Please don't do that. Right. Do not. Just because it is there, don't do it. I mean, I don't even know why this is allowed. It doesn't even make. Why would you have a string and I don't know. Anyway, yes, you can. In JavaScript, it's weird. You can have mix, but please don't have mix. All right. Don't have mixed arrays. Arrays is a concept that you're trying to bring values that are similar together. You're trying to bind these values. Okay? If you have multiple different, then you probably need 2 arrays. Yes, ma'am.
Could you have more than like one?
More than what?
Like a 3-dimensional array?
Yeah. Okay. All right, I'll answer that. Any questions on this basic? Man, you guys are already like advanced. I feel like I'm like, yeah. We'll all right. Any questions on the basic one-dimensional array? All right. This is going to blow your mind. So Matt is asking, can I have 2-dimensional array? 2-dimension array basically means an array within an array. Now this array is 2-dimensional. I have an array, and within an array there's an array. Again. No, don't do this. Yeah. No. Well, again, okay. Now the question is: it good practice? It's not rare. You will see this. For example, you're trying to make a JavaScript game. Like a tic-tac-toe game, let's suppose, right? So, well, this is not a good example. Let's say you have rows and tables, something like this, right? And there's a possibility that you want to store this part also, and these are multiple values, and this also, the column values, right? You see, so this could be an array, and this could be an array, but you want all of them together. Again, this is a very different use case, but there's a possibility you will have 2D arrays. For now, it's fine. We try to avoid it. There are better ways. If you are coming to a 2D array, there are different data types that JavaScript gives, and we kind of use those instead of that. But yeah, there is a possibility. Yeah. When we get to more advanced concepts, people do ask in interviews about the 2D arrays. They're kind of curious, do you know what it means and how do I do it in JavaScript? You might get asked, but this is how you do it.
Or is it utilize a two-dimensional array?
Utilize it also. All right, utilize it also. But we'll come to that later on when we get there. Okay, so this is array. Now, how do I... Now, I have declared it, right? I'm not accessing it, right? So how do I access it? There are a couple of methods that I'm going to show you today. One is called length. Okay, let's see what length does. I'm going to create a variable called length of Avengers array, and then I'm going to use Avengers array dot length. Now, if you have to break it down, what did I say? Anything over here? So this is an object basically, but in a high-level sense, this is our array, and this array has a built-in function. This is a function that comes with built-in. If you do arrays.length, it's going to give you oh, it's a property. It will give you how many elements are, or how many values are inside that array. Okay. So if I want to find out how many values are inside this array, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So use the word length, and we will see why we need this at some point later on. So I'm going to console.log this. What am I missing? Length of Avengers array is equal to array. Ugh. Sorry. Okay, so it says 5. Again, now coming back technical, anything that is inside it, we call them elements. So length is telling me how many elements are there in my Avengers array. There are 5 elements. Okay.
So you have to add that. You all that.
What?
Why do you have a dot right at the end of the other?
This is how you, this is the syntax. This is how you get the value. You have to do it. Yeah. So you have to, this is your array name, and this array kind of comes built in with a property called length. If you do this, it will put this. Here's, I can do a shortcut also. I don't have to put it, assign it to a variable. I can just do this also. Just console log, it's the same thing. All right, but the main important is dot length without the parentheses will give you the number of elements in that array. All right. Here's the
Length is not a function.
no. It's technically it's called a property, right? It's not a function. All right. One more really important concept. How is the numbering in your array? I have how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. How many elements are in this array? 6. A, B, C, D, E, K. Okay. Now there's a concept called index. All right. What is index? Basically means position. What is the position of this one?
0.
0. Position of this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Your array always starts with a 0. Okay? The first index of any array is going to be 0. Okay? Index is a position, all right? It always starts with a 0. If I say what is at my index number 2, it's not going to be B, it's going to be C. If I say what is at index number 0, that's the first one. It's going to be A. Very important. Okay? And array.length basically goes and counts how many elements are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, George, you have a question?
Yeah, so doing that, so comparing that to our code, so let's say index number 3, so we're going to put an who's array. So if you look at number 3,
0,
that would be
1,
2,
2, 3. Yes. Yep, that will be capital amount. Now, how do I access that index? This is a syntax. I'm going to start with my array name, okay, square bracket, and then within the square bracket you put in the index number 3. So what this is saying is go to this array, look at number 3 and bring that value. So let's go ahead and console log this. So what should I see? Spider-Man. Oh, sorry. There's the Hulk also over here, that's why. So 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay? If I do index number 0, it should give me the first one. Okay? What if I put in an index that doesn't exist? How many indexes are there? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Undefined. What it means, what did I say? These are variables. It's kind of containing individuals. So if you look at this alone becomes a variable on its own. On its own sense, this is a var a. This itself is also now basically like a variable. So what it is doing is going to try and find this, and it says it's not there, it's not defined. Okay, but this is what will happen. The main point is if it doesn't exist, then you're going to get a value undefined. So any index that doesn't exist over here, you're always going to get undefined. All right. Again, length will give you the number of elements in an array. Index is basically the position. And how do you access the index? Using square brackets, and then you put in the number. How do you declare the array? Same thing. Square brackets, but you have values inside, individual values. When you're trying to access any index, square brackets, and then a number. So always going to be a number. Okay. All right. Any questions on this? All right. Go ahead and try the last activity. Kind of get practice and try different things. So if you have any question, let me know. But give it a try and see how those activities are kind of help you. Let me okay, so this is the last activity. There are a few more challenging ones, and I'm going to post it on GitLab. If it kind of takes those concepts and kind of makes it a little bit more complicated. So if you are interested, look at those extra activities that I will post. So for Saturday, I'm not teaching this Saturday. Matt is going to be teaching. Okay. Now Saturday is also important. You're going to look at some advanced JavaScript concepts. Again, I would highly recommend, whatever the mode of his teaching is, maybe he's fine with laptops. We need to be, when I say we, you guys need to be disciplined enough. Please focus on Saturday's class also. Close your laptops just like you do it over here. Focus on that. because you see, as I said, these are basic concepts. We are now, by Saturday you'll have a ton of information. That's even more crazy than this. And come Tuesday, it's going to build up what we do it on Saturday. For this class, please go back, try activities again. Make sure when you come into Saturday, you kind of have a really good idea what this means, what does array.length means, what when you put this, what happens, when you put in a number, what happens, how do you create your variables, your if statements, read up on it, try to find different conditions and see what it does. If you have questions, post it on Slack. I'll try to answer those, or anybody else who has more knowledge, please answer those. Okay? All right, any last questions? Okay, let's do the activity, and then that should be the end of the day. Close the stream.